what does your jewelry collection looks like? What does your art collection look like?
Let's talk about, I know you mentioned if you'd be emotionally upset if something were to happen, but
Mhm.
what kind of questions, if I were to come to you with my to get a policy, what kind of answers should I have walking in the door to meet with you?
I would say that having a good inventory and idea of what you have is start one. And this goes in the same conversation I have with people daily about, what does your jewelry collection looks like? What does your art collection look like? Because there's limits on everybody's policy for collections.
Okay.
And same thing with pieces of jewelry. So it's that would be where I would say to start. Are you inventorying your bottles? Do you really know how much you have? Do you have any really high end, high priced bottles that we need to worry about? Because that's going to determine which way I decide to send you and what we decide to do for a policy. I don't have access to a specific wine collector's policy. Like if you're collecting $5,000, $10,000 bottles of wine, there are better policies out there, and I'm happy to direct you where those are at. But if
Mhm.
you are a drinker of your wine, you have, I mean, I just quoted one last week. They have $150,000 worth of wine. We put it on their home policy because it can be added to your personal property amounts.
Okay.
Um, Not every insurance company will do that. And my underwriting team probably hates me because I send them the weirdest questions sometimes. I'm like, tell me how this is going to get covered. Is this a good idea for us to cover this? And that is a big thing with insurance in general, but specifically when you have collections like this, you want to make sure your agent knows what they're talking about. Um, I don't want to insure something or somebody and go, oh yeah, we could totally do that. And then on claims day, I'm like, oh yeah, just kidding. That's not covered, that's excluded. And because that makes me look like a real bad guy. And I don't want to be a bad guy. And I take all this stuff home very personally. And so we really work hard in a very high end level upfront, whether it's a home policy, an auto policy, or it's a winery or a big business. I mean, we want to make sure that we've got the details lined out really well.
I love that. And so I think some people, the first thing they think of is physical damage to the bottle,
Yeah.
but things like cork taint, like in other words, if I open the bottle and it didn't survive as well as it could, is that covered
Hmm.
by insurance?
That one's a rough one,
Yeah.
because a lot of things come into that, and I cannot cover that. So on our
Okay.
policies, with which is a normal homeowners renters type policy, it's going to be breakage, theft, earthquake. If you add it, things like that, maybe
Okay.
even water damage. But when you're looking for cork taint and bottle, like even label damage and stuff, that's going to be more of a specified specific policy that is going to be done through more of a brokerage house, like a Lloyd's of London or I think an AXA or American Modern, something like that. They have specific policies for wine, but a lot of them will not cover cork taint because a lot of times it is condition. There can be a flaw in the cork, just
Mhm.
naturally. But B, did you store it right? Did you store it upright in the sunshine? Did you store it, the way it's supposed to be done? And so some of that stuff is excluded. So I think you run the risk of cork taint just as an owner of that bottle of wine.
So whether we're a consumer, whether we're a winemaker, whether we're a vineyard, and we want to learn more about insurance, tell us website, social media, what's the best way to learn more about your insurance work?
I would say that a Wine Crush podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are probably the best places to go because I kind of skirt both sides of the fence with that. We do some Insure What You Love Thursday content, which is just kind of breaking down some of this stuff into English to where you can understand it. But honestly, either direct messaging me or calling me directly is probably the best way to actually get your questions answered the best way possible. Our insurewhatyouLove.com is more of a generic look at the insurance that we do. But then you can also go to my Country Financial page as well, and get actual product specific with that.